Now that we have created few menu items, let's work on the home page of our application. Here we want to display all the menu items inside a nice table format. We will be using Bootstrap card layout for that format. But before that, let me do one thing. If we close the application here, and let me close all the tabs that I have open, inside Solution Explorer, now inside the Customer folder, we will be creating more folders. So inside Customer, let me create a new folder. I will call that as Home Page. And I will create one more, which will be for Shopping Cart. Inside Home, we will have an index page. So let me add a new Razor page. I will call that as index.cshtml. Now this page that I added will be the home page of my application. Right now it is this index.cshtml outside of the admin and the customer folder right here. So let me close this, and inside the main landing page that we have on get, we do not want to display anything. Let's just redirect to the new home page that we have inside customer home index. We will just return redirect to page customer home and index, and rather than void here, the return type now will be iActionResult, since we are redirecting to a page. With that in place, if we run the application, you will not see the welcome text because now it will take us to the new landing page. And perfect, it's all empty. So that is good. Let me stop the application and open up the home page, which is inside home folder. We will work on the page model. Here we will have to display all the menu items. So we will need our unit of work again, and we'll have to get that using dependency injection. So we will do that in the constructor. Then what will be the model right here? We just want a list of all the menu item, so we can say prop. This will be an IEnumerable. We will have to do control dot to include system.collection.generics, and this will be on the model menu item. Let's include abby.models. We will call this as menu item list. We need to populate this list with the help of unit of work. So we can say menu item list is equal to underscore unit of work dot menu item dot get all, and we want to include the category as well as food type. So right here we have include properties that we can specify. That will be category, comma, food type. Make sure the casing is correct, because if not, I have shown before what error you will encounter. So with that, our menu list will be populated inside the get handler. We need to work on the actual view to display some data. Rather than typing HTML and CSS, I like to provide snippets so that we do not waste our valuable time on HTML content. So snippets again, if you haven't downloaded that, you will find them on .NETMastery.com, and I have shown you how to download them on the lecture project resources in the beginning of the course. So I hope you have downloaded them. We are in section 7. We want the home UI. Let me copy what I have here, and we will paste it inside our index.cshtml. This index is inside the home folder. Once you add that, let's run our application and see what we have right here. This is nothing complex, it is just a simple card layout, which you will see once the application runs. And perfect, you can see we have name here, price, we have an image link, category name, food type, and description right here. What we want to do is we want to display individual category name and then all the product in that category. Then we will have the next category name and all the product in that category. That is the format that we want. So for that, inside the get handler where we have the menu list, we will also require all the category name, because we want to make sure that we display items based on that category. So right here, let's add one more IEnumerable, which will be category list. It will be on category, and we want to get all category. So let's populate that with unitofwork.category.getAll. We do not want to include any properties when we are working with category list. So perfect, this is looking great. Now in the next video, let's work on our index UI because right now we just have all the static content. We have some bootstrap classes, card layout, some divs, an image tag, and a link right here. But you can see nothing is C# code. It is all HTML and CSS. That's why I provide snippet so we do not waste time on writing the bootstrap classes. Now we first need to display all the category name, and for each category we will have all the menu items inside there. So we have our first category name right here. We will require a for each loop to go through all of the categories that we have. So right here we will add a razor for each loop, and we will say variable category in model.category list. So for each of the category, we will be displaying everything that you see right here. Let me minimize this, and perfect. With that in place, if we save this, go back and refresh, we have an error here. We will have to restart the application. Let me do that. And it should display all the 3 category lists that we have. Let's wait for that. Perfect. We can see 3 category name now. So rather than category name, we can use our variable, which is category. On there, we have the name. If we save and refresh, it displays 3 category name: appetizer, entree, and dessert. That is great. Now inside each of these categories, we will have to display all of the menu item. So we will have to iterate through all of the menu item list where category name is the current category. And we have a card layout for that, which I believe is right here. So inside the row margin Y3, we will have another for each loop to find out all of the menu items where category is category.name. So for each, we will say variable menu item in model.menuitemList.where. We will use a where condition to filter our menu item list. We can say where u goes to u.categoryID. This is equal to the current variable that we have, category.id. If that is equal, then we want to display that is there in this column large 4. Let me save that, and before we go back and refresh, if we expand this, let me add some space here so it's much easier to read. This is one menu item that we are displaying in a card. You can see we have name here. We can use our menu item to extract the name. So menu item.name, let me save that, go back and refresh. Perfect. You can see all the menu items here and their names for each of the category. That is looking great. Let's replace all of this other dummy text and image as well. So next we have price here. We can use a $sign and we can say menu item dot price. Let me remove the space here. That looks good. Let's go back and refresh. Perfect. Price is looking good. We have the image that is inside menu item dot image. The category name will be inside menu item dot category dot name. We have this category populated because we are using the include properties right here. Next we have the food type name, so menu item dot food type dot name, and we have description. Now description, if we just display like this, we are using a rich text editor. That's why it will look ugly. Let me save this and show that. You can see here we have HTML content. So to display the actual formatting, we will use html.raw, and in the bracket here, we will pass menu item dot description. You can see it renders the HTML, and now everything is looking much cleaner. So with this we have appetizer, entree, and dessert. But what if we want to display all of these categories based on the display order? If we go to categories here, you can see appetizer is first, entree is 2, and dessert is 3. If I change appetizer here to have display order of 4, then entree should be displayed first. If we go back to the home page, that does not change. Still our appetizer is at the top, entree, and then dessert. How can we use display order to toggle which categories are displayed first? There are multiple ways to do that. One way is when we retrieve the index.cs HTML. When we have the category list, we can filter this category list and order it by the display order. But what ideal approach should be is where we have the getAll, just like include properties, we should have a function on that we can provide on what property we want to filter our result by. That is something that should be added to our repository. So let's do that in the next video. When we have the getAll functionality, we want to add one more item in our repository. So let me open the iRepository as well as repository. While I am here, I want to make our repository much more elegant. When we have the getFirst.default, it could be possible that we want to include some properties right there. So let me copy this and add that along with our filter. Let me stop the application here, and we will make the code change in repository as well. When we have the filter here, let me hide this. We can also get a nullable include properties. If we do, then we will use the same condition that we have. So after we filter our query with the where condition, we can check if include properties is not null. We will include them in our query. That is one thing that we had to clean up. The next thing that we want to clean up is we have the filter of function right here in getFirst.default. It is possible that when a user is getting all the records, they want to filter that. Like let's say they are getting all of the orders, but they want orders in certain status. That is not possible with our current repository pattern. So we will be adding our filter condition that we have in getFirst.default inside the getAll as well. So let me copy this expression, paste it here, add a comma. I will change the definition as well. Let me copy this and paste it here. Then if the filter is not null, we will add the where condition. Let me add that. Both getAll and getFirst.default are exactly identical. But inside getAll, there will be one more thing that we want to implement. What if we want to order our result based on some property? Before we implement the order by condition in our getAll, let's go to the top where we have _db. Here, if we want to order something on _db, we have to do something like this. So menu item dot order by, we will say u goes to u dot, and let's say we want to order that by name. To implement the same functionality, what we will do is we will implement the complete function that you see and receive that as a parameter. So let me comment this out. For that, we will have to add that parameter inside the definition right here. Since we want the complete order by, that will be a function in which it will return an iQueryable on generic class after it is sorted. And here we will have an iOrdered queryable. Again, on the generic class T, we will call this as order by is equal to null. Since this could be null, let's add the question mark here, and that looks good. Let me copy this, close the iRepository, inside the getAll, let me add that. Now using this order by is super simple. We will do that at the very end before we return the list. We will check here if order by is not null. Then we want to return order by. We will pass our query in there and convert that to a list. Simple as that. If the order by is null, we return the query directly. So with that, let me save this, go back to our index.cshtml. Where we are getting all the categories now, we can define the order by. We will say u goes to u.orderBy. We will have to add system.link here. And we will say c goes to c.property name is display order. So you can see we have the complete flow that we are adding here. And in order to get something, you now know that you will have to create a function like this. So with that, we have implemented order functionality in our repository. Let's run the application and see if this actually works. And great, now in the home page we have entree first, dessert, and last is appetizer. If we go back to menu items, categories, appetizer display order to 1. If we go back to the home page, appetizer is now at the top. So perfect, with that we have made our repository much more efficient and we added more functionality. Now the home page of our application is looking great. What we want to work on is the View Details page. When a user clicks on View Details, it should take them to a details page of the application. So there we will have to navigate based on the ID of the menu item that is selected. So inside the index.cshtml, where we have the link, we need to pass the ID and we have to define a page right here. So we will say that we want to go to an ASP page with the name of details, and when we navigate to that page we have to pass the ID. So we need an ASP.route parameter. Let's call that parameter as ID and the value will be inside menu item. We have the ID. With that in place, it will navigate us to the details page, and on the get handler we will get the ID of the menu item. So let's stop the application and create that page inside the home folder. Let's add new Blazor page. It will be an empty page. We will call that as details. We will have to work on the page handler first, where inside the onGet handler we will receive an integer ID. Based on that ID, we will have to retrieve the menu item and pass that to the view. So first we will have to get the iUnit of work using dependency injection. Let me add the using statements here. And perfect. Now what will be the model that we will bind to this page? For now, let me start with a menu item. We will do control dot and we have menu item. Based on the ID here, let me load the menu item is equal to underscore unit of work dot menu item dot get first dot default u goes to u.id is equal to the ID. When we have this menu item, we can work on the UI and display the menu item. We already have the UI in details.cshtml. Rather than typing HTML and CSS, I have provided the details UI in snippet. So we can copy and paste that right here. If you notice, this is all HTML and CSS. There is no C# code at all. So everything is basically styling that is needed for the page. We just have a form here with the method of post, but nothing fancy. Even the back to list link here does not have where it needs to navigate. So we will have to add all of that. But before that, let me run the application and see if we are able to navigate to the details page when we click on the details button. So here, let's scroll down, click on view details. You can see in the URL the ID is 6. Let's click here and perfect. It navigates us to the details page where we have dummy data. Now before you modify this dummy data and populate all the details here, I want you to think of one thing. We have a count of all the menu items that has to be added. So if a user wants to add 10 menu items to the shopping cart, then they will enter 10 here. We do not have any bind property for this particular count. So it makes sense to create that property and bind our view to that property. So let me stop the application, go back here. We only have menu item. Let me create an integer count, and I will add data annotations for range with custom error message. It says please select a count between 1 and 100. That is the count that we are allowing per menu item. So with this in place, let's go to our details here and replace the dummy data with our model. So name will be inside model.menuitem.name. Next we have the price here, which is inside model.menuitem.price. We have the category name here, which is inside menuitem.category.name. Let me copy that and paste that for food type name, which will be inside the food type. Description, we should use html.raw here, and that is inside model.menuitem.description. We scroll down, we have a count here. We can bind that with ASP4 is equal to. We added the count integer, so let's use that. Then for the label as well, we can use ASP4 of count. Lastly, when we are working with count, we added the validation of range. So let's add a span here, validation. This will be for count. Give it a class of text danger. If you scroll down, we have the image here. That is inside model.menuitem.image. So things are looking great. Let me save this and rerun the application. This time, if you navigate to the details, you will see all of the details for that menu item. We get an exception here. Let me continue. And it says the category is not populated. Let me see why that happened. We forgot to include the properties when we retrieve menu item. That is the reason. So with getFirstDefault, we added the include properties. We want to include category and food type. Our repository is pretty solid, so it should be able to handle all the scenarios. Let's click details here, and perfect. You can see we have all of the details. User can select count here. We forgot the client-side validation, so let me go back to the details. At the very end, we need to include scripts for validation, scripts partial. If we refresh that and hit add to cart, we see the client-side validation. So this is great news. Our details page is looking great. But there is something that I do not like with the current setup that I have. Let me show that in the next video. Now I have said before that there is something that I do not like with the current setup. And that is if we go back to the application, inside the page model for details, right now we have two properties that we want to bind to this particular page. Let's say in future we have more and more properties. It does not make sense to add all of them inside the page model right here. What you should do is you should rather create a view model, and you will use that view model for this page. That way you will have one view model that is specific for a page, and that will help you when your application grows and scales. So that is a great approach to follow, and we will see that in the later videos. But for now, whenever a user adds something to the shopping cart, we want to save that to the database. So we want to save that which user has how many items in the shopping cart. So we need the user ID, we need the menu item ID, and we need the count. Now you might be saying that we do not have application user right now. That is the main issue. We do not have any way of logging into the account and getting a user ID for all users of our application. That is a big project and a change in our application. How do we implement all the user-related stuff like sign in, sign up, and managing all of those tables and security? Do not panic with all of that. .NET Core provides an identity library that we can use which implements all of those functionalities. But configuring that identity is a tricky part. Let me walk you through all of that in the next module of this course.